Here we are, episode 21 of A Dose of Sinsanity. I am GR3. I am joined by Welshie, and we have a special guest who may or may not get us canceled. Welcome, Nick, to the podcast.
I'm a saint. I don't like the slander.
I have never had an individual drop my self-esteem more than Nick. Being on Nick's team is the ultimate goal.
It is terrifying to actually have him with us today. Big risk. Jamokin is unfortunately unavailable once again. But we have new Jamokin being Nick, and we're going to have some fun today. I think after the infamous interview, everyone's going to be excited to hear what you have to say.
Upgrades, people. Upgrades.
You've been bugging me for God knows how long to just be on the podcast.
I have. He wouldn't let me on. He couldn't face the music.
Couldn't face the backlash that's going to come.
I wonder why.
I'm not going, man.
But we're going to kind of pick up a little bit where we left off last week. We're just getting into the qualifiers, and I think at the time, if I'm not mistaken, all we had was SA and Eastern Europe, being Hikari and BetBoom, qualified. And even a couple hadn't started at the time. But we got all of our teams now. We have all of our qualified teams. We know who's going to be in the last chance qualifiers. And we're hitting the ground running. It is almost that time. So, Welshie, why don't you talk me through a little bit the qualifiers here?
So we finished up. I think when we finished the last one, what we had was China, EU, and that I think was South America was also not done yet. So the teams. No, I think Hikari we knew about. So the teams that have qualified.
So we knew SA and we knew who was it? It was SA and I think Eastern Europe.
Yeah, so in order of region, we've seen that Western Europe finished with Entity finishing in first, Secret in second, and Liquid in third. NA finished with Sonics, who is, what's that draft? Quincy Crew? It's basically just Quincy Crew. Yeah. Which is Quincy Crew remade. Nouns and Wildcard finishing in second and third, respectively. And then we saw Talon beat out Polaris and T1 for the first spot for TI qualifiers. Other than that, the ones we kind of saw were Royal Never Give Up from China, qualified first, with Extreme Gaming coming in second, and Vici in third. Bet Boom in first, Outsiders, Navi for EU, for Eastern EU. And SA had Hikari and Infamous and Tempest in that order.
Let's kind of break these down region by region, right? So let's just start with the first one we said, Western Europe. So Entity once again takes first. Secret gets second, Liquid gets third. So Entity once again qualifies for TI. Secret and Liquid get beaten out. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, it was a strong region, like it has to be said. A lot of strong teams in the region that everybody did. I think a lot of people had hopes on different areas, which I think was interesting. They had the streamer crew of Bald that just kind of flopped, even though they did manage to trump Alliance.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah. But you have Liquid, Entity, Secret, and Enigma Galaxy all in the same bracket, which is just terrifying. Goon Squad apparently coming out of the absolute blue. But yeah, what do you think, Nick?
I mean, the thing is, Puppy's been around since TI1, right? And Liquid has Kuroki. They have these strong leader teams, but the difference is with Entity, right? Stormer, he's there were names that you've known about, right? But they just look super strong, right? And I'm not saying that Secret or Liquid are washed up, because they're not. The thing is, I think Entity just might be. They might have outplayed Kuroki and Puppy's brain, right? They became the new Bill Belichick, because they didn't lose any of these games, and I felt even in the last games against Entity and Secret, right? They were longer games. They just knew how to basically beat them, right? That's they did it. Entity did not drop a single game in the qualifiers at all, and so I just feel they just know what they're doing. And when it comes to actual TI, I'm a big America fan, right? EG is going to get smacked by Entity. There's no question in my mind. They're nasty.
Strong.
Yeah, they're nasty. I have no hope. I'm a big Team Undying fan, TSM fan. But I'm just saying, praise Dubu. But But NAD just looks like they're contending for it. Like it reminds me of when like OG just like when Fly got the Fly left and No Tail had his like demon face on and they came out and won out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I feel like NAD's just gonna come out strong and nobody's like really gonna think about them because everybody's focusing on like EG, and all these other teams that are just like have been in it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gonna come wipe them. And the thing is like Secret and Liquid are gonna have to battle it out, along with the other teams in other brackets for these wild card spots. And I don't know who's going to take them. But the thing is, it's going to be different. Is that there's TI is going to look way different than it ever has in years.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's just going to be new players. It's gonna be new players coming through, and it's just gonna be hard it's gonna be hard to be like, oh, I think I know who's going to do well, right? Because you don't. I think this is the first TI in a long time where you're like, oh, well, I don't really know it's anybody's ball game besides EG's. Anybody's ball game besides EG's.
I have my own opinions on who's going to win, but Entity 5th, 6th at ESL 1 Malaysia, 5th, 6th at Arlington Major. Like, they're showing up, and they have been competing really well, especially as of late. They're finding their groove, like you said. Like they lost to, I think it was Aster and Fnatic, but they're a solid team. And Toby has been around in these like tier 2 teams for some time, and is starting to grab some traction. A couple of these guys, I mean, I believe this is going to be the first TI for all of these players. Pure, Stormer, Toby, Kadomi, Fishman. Like,
is it really Toby's first TI?
Unless you're thinking of Toby like the caster, who's a different person.
Mm-mm.
I think it is. I know he's probably the most veteran player on this entire roster as far as like the quality of teams. But I can't remember. I don't think he's been to any TIs or anything like that yet.
Interesting. I mean, it's particularly interesting as well for Entity because, like, I mean, I just don't know. Like, I'm a Secret fanboy at heart. I always will be. And it's interesting though because I mean, let's be honest here. Like, what is it? Entity laid the smackdown on Secret. Like, it's 5 games played, 5 wins. So it's not like a handed like, oh, it was close. No, they got beat 5 games in a row. Like. You got to be looking at Secret now and kind of thinking to yourself, like, don't get me wrong. Entity is super strong. Like, super strong, obviously. They swept the whole of the qualifier. But, you're thinking, you must be feeling like, okay, we can't beat Entity in 5 games once. We got a lot to figure out before these last chance qualifiers because, holy crap, we cannot go into TI. We have to, first off, pray to God we get to TI because we got the last all-timer left. And 2, if we're going to show up to TI playing like that, then there's no way we're going to qualify. If we can't beat the 5th, 6th spot in the Arlington Major, then there's no way we can qualify and we can do well in TI this year.
No, who Entity beat? They beat Alliance, Secret twice, and Liquid.
I mean, Alliance, let's not pretend that's impressive, but
I mean, I'm with Ben on this only because, like, I don't know if you guys watch these clips. Like, I didn't, like, watch the games all the way, but I saw, like, the clips going around. Puppy's got that dog in him, if you guys didn't know. And I don't know if you saw, but like when they lost, in the end, Puppy's screen was frozen, and it looks like he was just hollering at everybody on some of the other person's stuff, and I was cracking up because I'm like, someone's gonna go down. Like Puppy refuses to not show up to TI, so that's why I think he's gonna end up making it there. But he was so angry. Like, you could just tell he was angry.
I mean, is that not the reason you keep Puppy, if for no other reason than the fact that, like, okay, he has gotten to every TI some way or another. Having him on your team is an indicator that you're likely to make it, because if he feels that you're going to make it, he certainly knows what he's talking about.
You got to have your big budget for monitors, though, with Puppy on your team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, got to have the big budget.
So let's move on to NA. Sonics make it once again. Nouns and Wildcard get second, third. This is I wasn't surprised. Right? Like, it's old Quincy crew. They're accustomed to making it. Like, they've been at most of the other TIs as of recent. I mean, think about it. You got Yawar, Quinn, Laszlo, MSS, Spada. Like, it's probably the second best stack in North America, or third at least, since TSM's been balling out. I would almost say that they're better than EG as of late. I mean, EG has been a pile of dog shit in all of their recent performances.
Yeah, they're
I
like really
wouldn't
bad.
be surprised if Sonics and TSM were the top two NA teams once TI starts, and EG is just kind of in the back foot. And it's kind of been like that. You look through the entire season of the DPC, where these three teams have been consistently like battling out for first in the standings. Just EG has consistently, well, really honestly, they just had a better start to the season. Their back half has been nothing short of awful. And luckily, that's all they needed to do is they performed well in the first half, got their points. I think they were EG was the first team to qualify of any team for TI. And then just kind of taking a back seat and like, oh, we're fine now. And then all these other NA teams are catching up. But Sonics, once again, I'm not surprised at all that this team ended up making it. I mean,
I am surprised, only because I think Nouns and them are equal in strength, right? Like, I did watch the Sonics versus Nouns game in the upper bracket, and Nouns beat him 2-0. And so I was like, oh, goodness, you know what I mean? Like, Husky and Gunner coming out, Gunner's revenge story for like the 9th time coming out, you know what I mean? And they lost, and I don't think Nouns is gonna be able to make it through against T1 and Secret and all them in
NA's fun. Like,
yeah,
the Sonics made it, like, Nouns and Wildcarders there for the experience.
yeah, but like, I was surprised, 'cause, like, I thought Nouns was better at the end of the day before they got 3-0'd. Like, I was like, Gunner's coming out for blood, you know what I mean?
They
Like,
did 2-0 them.
yeah, that's what I mean.
I think Western Europe was one of the only divisions where the lower bracket team didn't end up 3-0ing or like winning the finals.
Yeah. And it always makes me laugh, right? Because I feel like if you have the advantage with the upper bracket to be able to like watch your enemy's games to like get how they play and like do more research on them. And it just makes me laugh that the lower bracket always comes out with that dog,
Yeah,
and just nails them.
you're playing more games though, right?
Yeah.
Like you get, I guess in their sense, they got one extra series, but it's one extra series to find yourself and learn the meta like for your team. There's understanding the meta for your team or like overall, and then there's understanding the meta for your team.
So, that's
because everyone's going to run a little bit different things.
Yeah.
But finding yourself more, like it gives you the idea. Plus, you just face Nouns. Like you get 2-0'd, you're able to break that down, realize what you did wrong. Nouns is thinking, well, we clearly did everything right. We 2-0'd them, right? So Sonics is, okay, we think that here's a little bit of what Nouns did against us. Can we adopt that? Okay, we sweep Wildcard Gaming. We're going to go into our into the finals, and now we have a clearer understanding of what we did wrong against Nouns, and then they sweep them. It was almost like a reverse sweep, like best of 5.
I mean, absolutely. I think it's interesting though, because a lot of the teams are, and all of these divisions are learning the strategies of their enemies, because this is again like, hey, these are last chances. Like these are qualifiers and last chance qualifiers. You got to show every card you have, right? Like I can even say in personally that like maybe EG is kind of sleeping on themselves because they don't want to show too much of their hand before they go into this. Is that kind of a thing?
They got to show everything.
I mean, EG's qualified, right?
Yeah, but they got to show everything in the group stages. They're going to get fucking eliminated like they did in the major.
Absolutely,
make it to the main event.
But it's got to be said though, right? They did dog in the Arlington qualifier, but they also knew that they were so close to qualifying they didn't need to be super impressive. So I think it kind of goes both ways. Like, yeah, they can. I mean, maybe we're sleeping on them. That's all I'm going to say. Is that like, do teams ever hold their cards to their chest in these kind of tournaments when you know that you're close to TI? Like, do you show your?
Well, you can't. You can't. Not in this shit. Like one team makes it, and you're against some of the best. Like these are not tier 2 teams. Like there's a couple, like, but these are not tier 2 teams. These are all tier 1s. they're some of the best. I mean, they're the best teams in the world, and only one makes it. So if you hold your cards, sorry, you're just not gonna make it in. On the same front, there's gonna be a new meta. Like once we hit even like the last chance, it's gonna be a different meta. As soon as we get to TI, especially, it's gonna be a completely different game. You can't afford to hold your cards because you're just not gonna make it.
No, I agree with you. I just think it's like the biggest thing about these is that the people who even come out of this qualifying is that there's so much more data on them and their play style than there is any of the other teams that have already qualified, which puts them at an advantage.
Sure.
I think it's a thing that people don't think about is that like, dude, you get to study these teams and what they do when they're desperate. Like this is their go-to, like we have to win strategies. And now you can start thinking about that. Like,
I'm gonna push this
good.
along a little bit. I want to get moving so that we have time to actually break down all of these. But let's hit up SEA real quickly.
This is beyond my pay grade. I don't pay attention to Southeast.
You don't pay attention to them?
It's under your pay
So
grade.
this is the one I was a little bit shocked by. So
I thought it was
Talon ends
T1
up
all
winning.
yeah,
Polaris took second, T1 took third. My favorite was definitely was T1.
Same.
I can't remember who I voted to win in the predictions. I could tell you I was wrong. I think it might have been TNC who just did not show the fuck up.
Not at
all. I was wrong. They lost in the BO1. To Exertia.
Like I know that T1 has Thompson and Anna, but I don't know who's on Talon. I don't know who's on Polaris.
T1 also has Cuckoo, Zypher, and White Moon, and then Polaris is
I know who that is. Oh yeah,
Natsumi, Lelouch, Force, Obvious, and IU.
Like the only person on Talon I know is 23 Savage. I just don't pay attention to Southeast Asia or China.
KP's been around for
I was gonna say, yeah. I know about KP and I know 23 Savage. Makoto is unfamiliar to me. Q is unfamiliar to me. For some reason, I feel like I've heard of Hyde, but that
I've never heard of Hyde.
I've never heard of Hyde either. The only regions I pay attention to personally are like NA, Western Europe, and I love South America. That South America might be my favorite region.
Oh, dude, what is it? Hyde was on Boom.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay.
So that's where I know him from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not much of an SEA guy, so let's move along. Fuck that one. We're going to the next exciting one of China.
Let me touch real quick on the fact that Talon, I know they're a more recent team, but they have 64,000 earned, and now they're about to like quadruple that number, which I think is awesome for the SEA for their scene.
Up the raw.
Well, if they make it, like keep in mind, just because you make TI doesn't mean you get paid.
Fair.
Like you still have to make the main event. You don't get paid for shit just being in the group stages.
Fair enough.
So,
Royal, is it, the first person for China was
Royal never give up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't. Like Vichi's the only one I know, and like it's kind of. Oh, so I do know Extreme too, but it's kind of wild that Vichi and Extreme got the boot.
So last week, when we touched on this, I stated I was like, I'm really excited for RNG and Extreme. And the reason being is the RNG roster is mainly the old LGD. And then the Extreme is the old, I think it was Vici. Because you have in RNG, you have Somnus, Chalice, X Nova, who are all on that roster that lost to OG.
Yeah.
And then you have an Extreme, you have Paparazzi, Old 11 was on eHome. PYW, like DY, like this is literally like Vici plus Old eHome when they're both good. So both of these teams are phenomenal. And Vici, I believe, is brand new roster of like Yang's still on there, but then it's XM, BAB, Frisk, and Erica. Like four on that roster are fairly new this season. But I wasn't surprised. Royal Never Give Up was my favorite, but not surprised at all. I mean, this is a badass freaking region too, right? Like you still have you have all those. You have Aster, you have eHome, you have CDEC, you have IG. Like My favorite team and my hope dark horse, but ended up taking last, Team Saiyan. Like, if you're Team Saiyan and then you're freaking offlaner Son Goku, like, come on.
Lame.
Not lame. You're lame.
The thing I will say really quickly about especially the China region is that like DPC points kind of really quickly show who was going to be first and second, right? Like, what is it? RNG had 780, like 730. Extreme had 440, and then everybody out below that was like sub 50 points. It's like two very, very good teams, and then a slugfest between the rest. All of which are really reputable teams, right? Invictus, CDEC, Vici, Aster, like all of them are very reputable, which means that to me, I think China's going to shine because China had such a slugfest. So I'm
all shines.
Yeah, but still,
I mean,
I
China's
still
winning
think,
TI. In
yeah.
my opinion.
I mean, I'm with
Like,
you.
I don't think so. I don't think China's going to win TI.
It's got to be LGD.
No, I don't think China's going to win TI.
I don't know. TI is crazy though, right? Like,
I think it's between Europe and China, definitely. Unless, and by God's given name, like Thompson at a SEA cuts his hair, up the Riz, and just comes out of nowhere. Like, I mean, China's really good, right? I just think that Entity, I legitimately think Entity's going to win it all. Like, I just think that they're like amazing, and I think that the big boost is that when you play in the quals coming up, like I think like OG winning in the quals and winning it, right? Like, I just feel like you've played in tournament play more recently than other people, so you have the advantage of just being in the zone. You know what I mean? Like, you just feel it. I legitimately feel like Entity can come out and win it all.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's move on to what Eastern Europe now.
Eastern Europe, yeah, Eastern Europe. So Eastern Europe, we had Bet Boom take first, Outsiders and Navi. I think I voted Navi for my predictions. All three of these teams I think are really solid. Bet Boom's got which I learned this, by the way, because we have a player in 82L on Nick's favorite team, Breaking Ben.
Breaking Ben, I love them.
Yeah, favorite team. It is pronounced Dahak. So Dahak is number one. Laurel, Notice, Roger, Sineko. So Roger and Sineko make it back to TI after I think 2 or 3 seasons not making it. So that's exciting, right?
Yeah.
Roger, who's on Virtus Pro, and then Sineko, who for a long time was on Avi. So exciting stuff, honestly. I'm really pumped to see them play. But then Welshie, your favorite team came up short again.
Yeah, bro. I mean, nothing else to be said. We talked about this in the last one. Like, they just keep getting absolutely like just shut down at the gate when they're about to cross through. Outsiders got beat for TI direct invite by a half point, and now Bet Boom took them out of their qualifier for Eastern Europe. So now brothers who have struggled their best are now in last chances, and I wish them the best of luck. But yeah, and then they beat out Navi, right?
We even said that. We're like, if they don't make this shit, they're done. Like, there's no way Outsiders is getting through the gauntlet that Western Europe and China are. There's no way.
Yeah, like. And plus, they have Ramses. I'm not gonna say anything else on that. We talked about it earlier before we started, but they have Ramses. That's my opinion. Yeah.
But why don't you like Ramses?
I just think he's a crybaby loser.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Amar's a crybaby loser, dude. I don't want to hear about this.
Yeah, but Amar also, like, they're both that, but I just don't like Ramses.
Fine.
I think Amar is funny. I think Ramses just gets like annoying.
Nick, you said that South America is your favorite to watch, right?
I love South America.
Take us away, introduce us into what happened in SA.
Okay, so hold on. Let me pull the numbers here. So SA had a bunch of teams, right? So right now, so
I think they had the same amount of teams as everybody else.
Yeah, hold on. Let me talk. So they had Hokori, Infamous, and Tempest, right? So Hokori has Lumiere, 4Analog, Vitali, and Tholiuker. Like, literally, I love them. So like, I just love SA teams, like, because they just make me laugh. Basically, just for your understanding, like HKR, just came out of nowhere at the end of it and just smacked Infamous, right? Because because they got beat by Tempest, right, coming through, and they got sent back down to lower brackets, and they came out, and then same way it happened with like Nouns versus Quincy Q Reborn or whatever their name is. They 3-0'd them, right? And so you really just took it all. But on Infamous, you have, let me pull it up. You have Parker, Leo Style, Frank, Michael, and Acel. I think that's how you say his name, Acel. But like, I love Leo Style, right? Like, these are like all just like good players, like that, like you and it sucks because like they haven't like really been able to like really show their strut off and like majors too much or like TI, but they're like solid players, right? And you know who they are. And I'm just like really excited because like as like I've like watched Dota over like the past like decade or whatever, like you just see SA gets better and better every year, and I just think that they're really good and they have like a unique style of playing a lot of the times, and like each team's different, right? Like I think like Hector and them who are in like K1 whatever you want to call them, or who are in the actual like they got invited, like his style of play, yeah, is he's a ricer, right? So like he farms the like he's a big I'm gonna hit creeps and then once I'm big I'm coming at you, right? Where I feel like a lot of the SA teams like HKR they play like the old MVP Phoenix, which is like I'm just gonna run it down at you. So I think that they're just most exciting Dota to watch, and I just like watching them.
They are fun. They're super fast paced. Like,
Yeah.
They put arguably more stress on the laning stage than NA does.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like about it is like NA, they put a lot of stress on laning stage in order to open up the map to farm. And SA will put stress on the laning stage to run it down your fucking throat for the rest of the game, which is a fun style of Dota to me.
Yeah, and Tempest has Slodden on it, right? Slodden's my favorite player in South America. Like him and Hector are like up there, are like tied for me, but Slodden is just so funny. And it's mostly just because the way he talks. I don't know if you guys ever watch like the NA streams or whatever. Like sometimes I'll be on like Mason stream and like Slodden's on his team and he's like screaming and stuff, and it just makes me laugh so much. Like I just it's just so funny to me. So I hope Tempest pulls it out and comes in, but I don't have them in for my predictions.
So last chance qualifiers now are coming up.
Here we go.
And I talked about this last week and mentioned this is going to be a fucking slugfest. It really is. You talk about all these teams, like, yeah, we have 6 more teams that just qualified for TI, 2 more slots. You have 12 teams now that are battling out for those 2 slots, and it is going to be hype. Top 2 get in. We're looking at Secret, Liquid, Nouns, Wildcard, Polaris, T1, Extreme Gaming, Vici, Outsiders, Navi, Infamous, Tempest. I'm pumped.
What a list.
Like it's gonna be a slugfest, man. It's like it's pre-TI TI. You know what I mean? Like some of the best teams in the world, the ones who they're probably salty as shit, especially like your second place finishers from the
we all know Secret's salty as shit.
Oh Jesus. My god, Secret's gonna, really try to get back in.
The people to me who stand out as like having the most, coincidentally, they may align with some opinions of mine, but Outsiders and Secret have something to prove. Both of them.
Yeah, those are what you said that your favorites are.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that you love Outsiders, like
a little too much.
A little too much.
It's more than dude. They've gotten like the only word for it is cucked like 3 times in a row.
Dude, literally. First off, they didn't get cut; they lost. Like they got cut, and then they got fucking swept because they weren't good enough. Like, which to me says they didn't deserve to be in TI anyways. If they can't fucking win, I'm sorry about you. I don't care how close the line was. If it was a half a point, they fucking lost. Like, you're just not good enough. Like, prove it now. If you're good enough to actually be in TI and you deserved that regional qualifier spot, prove it now. Because you didn't in regional qualifiers. Time to nut up. Like, you have to make it out of this. Otherwise, I don't feel anything. I'm just saying. Like, we talked about it last week. Just because you didn't understand the way that it worked, yes, it's unfortunate, and I'm sorry. but it just proves you weren't good enough.
I'm not starting this debate again, as I've had it multiple times. But yeah, you're right. Like, they've not qualified. They had to fix this shit.
Yeah. At this point, it's just like you grew up with your teddy bear and sleeping with it every night. Brother, you're fucking 27 years old now. Put the teddy bear in the box and just let it go.
Damn.
But,
Calling out Sir Barrington out here, man. I didn't need that.
Sir Barrington.
Nick, who are your favorites here?
So I have Secret and T1 going. Secret, like I said, Puppy's got that dog in him. He's angry. He's not gonna come out. I think Liquid, like I like Kuroki and stuff like that, right? But I feel like they know that this is their last time with their roster together, right? So it's like I guess it's just emotional for them, so they might be able to turn up and go out. But I just feel like Liquid just might not be able to stand up to the Chinese.
Liquid's
team.
not Kiro, by the way.
Is
Kiro's Enigma Galaxy.
Oh, is it Enigma Galaxy?
They're out, brother.
Wait,
like, they're done. Like, they came up fucking
hold
short.
on. Hold on.
They
I've been
got
messed up then.
fucking dick, dude. Like,
see, look, this is how out of it I've been. That I still think Liquid.
Liquid is Matu, Mike, Zami, Boxy, and Insania.
Oh no, they're done. See, yeah. Okay, so that's besides that. All right, so ignore what I was saying before because I didn't even know that. But I had Secret and T1 winning because I just feel like Thompson and Anna can just solo carry through the Chinese teams. And I don't think they're a bad team either. I just feel like they just need to figure more stuff out, right?
It's a new roster. It takes time.
Yeah. I do think Secret's gonna come through there because I feel like Puppy he refuses to give up, and also I don't know if I'm pretty sure everybody watches this is American, so but Bill Belichick. That's literally who Puppy is. Like, he's like the smartest goddamn person on the planet when it comes to
but he lost Brady.
He did lose Brady, but I'm just saying he's the smartest person when it comes to the game besides for No Tail, right?
First off, I just want to stop you there for a second because that's so fucking good. Like, Enigma Galaxy literally is like the Patriots with you lose, so you have Kiro, who's literally like Belichick, but then you have Samel, who's like the Tom Brady. But I don't know if you've how much you've watched of him. He's fucking washed. He's done. It's just not he's not gonna make it. He's looked like shit. That's Samel. Their mid laner now is Samel, and that couldn't be more of Tom Brady. Used to be the king. Step away for the next generation because you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, go spend time with your family before you get divorced. But I just think that I think Anna and Thompson can come out, and I might be not giving the Chinese teams as much clout as I should be, but I just feel like in the end all be all, I just feel like the way that those teams play, Secret plays that mind game cautious, is going to try to outdraft you and play that way, while T1 is going to try to just murder, just basically demoralize you with their picks and then try to run you over. I just feel like unless you have a good reaction to both of those, they're just going to beat you. And I feel like in the end all be all, they're going to be able to come out on top.
Yeah, I could see T1 being the dark horse. I really could. All these teams, anyone can make it. My favorite's Extreme, which I really felt like it was going to be a slugfest between Royal Never Give Up and Extreme. I've always been a big Paparazzi fan. I think he's just an absolute baller. But my second team's Liquid. Just for the sense of Zai's a beast. Insania is one of the best fives, in my opinion, in all of Dota. Matu's fucking angry, and clearly he can carry shit teams through TI. When you have a roster like Mike, Zai, Boxy, and Insania, he can carry, he doesn't have to carry that whole team because it is a good roster in general. And personally, I think it's just going to be between a Western Europe team and a China team is going to make it. If not, I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if Vici and Extreme make it in just two Chinese teams. I just think right now they're the strongest region.
I agree. Not voting with my heart about Outsiders and Secret. I think that honestly, it's going to be a Western Europe team and a China team, or it's going to be both China. That's my honest brain opinion. Is that's how that's going to work out.
But we kind of mentioned it a little bit about you coined this earlier of changing of the guard.
Yeah, man.
It's a brand new, like it feels like it more than before.
Yeah.
It's a new generation of TI.
On a personal
And-
level, I'd like to speak to this actually real quick. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting that when I got into Dota, it was like not 4, it must have been TI 5 or 6, and like the dominant people were, I mean, people that we still talk about today, right? Like Miracle was the best player ever made. Puppy and what was
Whole OG squad.
OG squad, the original Navi squad with oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. He's the most Dendy. I forgot Dendy.
You forgot Dendy?
I forgot. It's been that long, dude.
Dude, that is the like cardinal sin.
Yeah,
like,
forgetting
yeah,
Dendy,
it is.
the number
Never
one most
forget
famous
Dendy.
Dota player. But I mean, it's like that we talked about. So Alliance used to be this incredibly dominant tier 1 team. Alliance is getting decked now. There's no better example of this than Enigma Galaxy, which, I mean, who's their roster again? It's like Miracle, Kuroki.
It's Miracle, Sumail, Mind Control, GH, and Kuro.
And
With
anyone who knows anything about Dota, like, knows those names. And
they're a Division 2 team.
to think they're Division 2, and even worse than that, they didn't even make top 3 in any of these qualifiers. Like, they didn't even get close to qualifying for TI. Like, you can say whatever you want about that, but that's a sign to me. And the biggest one to me is like that team didn't qualify for TI. The TI all-timer is hanging on by a thread, Puppy, of not going to this TI. If there's ever a reason to think, I mean, CDEC isn't relevant anymore. The teams that are still around that are relevant, that have always been relevant, is like Liquid. And I mean, is that any other team really like had
eHome,
Navi is still relevant. Yeah. But there's not a lot of teams left. And I think that we're just seeing and a lot of these people that we, exactly like you just said, we characterize as being the players of Dota, like the number ones, are no longer that way.
Like here are the teams of just the last 2 years that you would never expect. Like I'm going to even mention Team Spirit, even though they won last year. They were a dark horse. Like Team Spirit hadn't been in TI for some time.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Beast Coast has come up in the last couple years. Thunder Awaken, they're fairly new. Gaming Gladiators, Tundra, TSM, Boom Esports, Entity, Bet Boom, Talon, Hikori. These are all that's a lot of teams who in the last few years are very, very new to the TI scene. And once again, it probably sounds weird that I say Team Spirit in this, just because, like I said, they won last year, but they were a fucking dark horse last year.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone was like, what the fuck are they doing in the finals? Much less winning the whole thing.
I mean, everybody had just drawn it and said LGD, got it, done. Case closed. Even went up to 2 games in, they were down. And the biggest upset in, I think, TI history.
You're really just left with LGD, OG, Evil Geniuses, and Fnatic. That's really it of your classic teams that are making it. Maybe you can say RNG has been in for some time and Sonics have been in, if you count them as Quincy Crew.
And even those teams are in name only, right?
And two of those made it through regional qualifiers. It really is a brand new time.
Yeah. And the one person on OG that actually recognizes Seb, everyone else, Notel's a manager now, and everybody else is gone. These players are leaving, right?
Taiga. Taiga has been
fair.
Yeah, Taiga. But even then on OG's actual roster, Seb's not on the actual roster. He was a stand-in. Their 3 is ATF and their 4 is Taiga. Seb's not on this roster. He's just standing in. And even PSG, LGD, for the most part they've stayed in. Isn't it something like Faith Beyond's last TI?
I don't know, man.
Last season. I think
too many people have told me they were. I've heard too many people saying they're retiring after this TI, and then they either don't or they don't qualify, so they're pissed.
Right. It's going to be a little different of a payday this year. We are currently only at $11,712,043.
Yeah.
That's it. And
How estimation of how long it's been since the battle pass was released?
well, you can actually look. I think we're about to start week 3.
Week 3.
Let me see. Weekly quests. We are technically on week 3 right now. 4 unlocks in 3 days. So we're about 3 weeks in.
Yeah,
And
that's
usually, like, I think at this time we're about 15 to 18 mil.
you're dead on.
Usually.
I'm looking at the chart right now of the breakdown of the time for each of these TIs, and we're about 18 million is where the last couple TIs have landed at this point.
So
15,
potentially for
15
the
to 18.
first time in history of TI, they're not going to break the record.
It was going to stop
But
at some point, right?
we'll
Like, I
see.
mean,
I want to get a little bit 82L focused because we haven't really done this in a bit.
fair.
There has been just discussion as of late, and especially in Challenger, not Challenger. What league am I in? Is it Challenger?
Name
Yes,
changes
Challenger
all the
League.
time, man. Yeah.
Challenger League. I couldn't remember if it was Champion as the Divine 5-1. But Challenger League. This past week had 4 games that were not ticketed. 4 of them. Now, I was one of them.
Yes, I
in the
was going
first
to say
game.
that. I was going to say that. That's what you were gonna
my stomach was really bothering me in the middle of making that lobby. I had to rush to the bathroom, and then totally forgot when I came back. But like, there is actually a game with an admin in the lobby, playing on the other team. Game 1 did not go ticketed. Game 2 did not go ticketed. Now, one of the things that we stated prior was the idea of having admins in the lobbies to make sure everything's set up properly. Is this indicative of something that wouldn't work? Because clearly with an admin in the lobby doesn't mean that it's actually getting ticketed. And I don't know if there was like any issues during it. The games were going, I think they started 30 minutes later than all the others, but all the other ones got ticketed. You know what I mean? So I doubt there was an issue. If somebody didn't have a ticket on the other team, well, then wouldn't the admin just make the lobby and put the ticket on himself? So it wouldn't have been that. But ticketing games, and one of the reasons why I say this is because we're playing the team who didn't ticket the entire series. It is, especially week 3, really debilitating to not see 2 of the 6 games, right? Am I wrong by that?
I mean, I don't know. For me, about this whole ticket, I don't think it's that big of a deal to me, like personally. But I understand your point because you don't be able to watch replays and stuff like that. For solution wise, I feel like they're like, if you miss 1, you get a warning. If you miss 2, then you get a draft penalty, and it keeps increasing from there, right? Like, that's like the only way to fix it. I don't feel like having a ad in the lobby. Like, I just feel like that's like we're adults. You can you want to play in the league.
Are we though? Like,
you gotta play. You gotta do the rules.
a lot of these teams are young. Like, a lot of these players are 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. I wouldn't necessarily categorize that as adults per se. I'm around that age group constantly every day, and I wouldn't say they're adults. But it is the reason why I think it becomes a big deal is there's a lot of talk in the league about starting a fantasy. Like, we ran it, I think 2 seasons ago. Zen piloted it in Champions League, and it was a lot of fun for a lot of people. Now they want to do fantasy for every single division, and in order to do that, you have to have games ticketed. First off, so that you can actually get the information, and second off, because you need to see the replays. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if they want to actually go in and look, like, there is fantasy actually built into the game, and replays, but you can't see that. So how are you gonna how are you gonna count these for and be accurate in fantasy if you don't actually have the game? You know what I mean?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is just if you want to do the fancy like that, then you just have to tell like I said before, have draft penalties. But if you want it to be equal, like both captains on the team should ask each other, "Hey, is this game ticketed?" Like, don't go into a lobby and just be like, "Let's get ready to go." Like, make sure everything's set up. Is it on a 5 minute delay? Is it on this? Is it ticketed? And once all the yeses go through, then you can start your game, and then do it again for the next game. Like,
But
that's just
we can't trust admins in the lobby to make sure that happens now. What's gonna make
No,
two
I'm just saying, as
captains
as the
talk to each
captain.
other?
I'm saying as a captain of your team to say that in like the lobby chat, be like, "Hey, is it ticketed?" You can see it. You know what I mean? Like, you can see what's ticketed, no matter what team you're on. So you can just ask.
Right.
And if you don't see it, and my thing is just pay better attention to it. But if you want there to be disciplinary action, just do what I said. Like, one warning, two,
See,
you start getting increased draft penalties.
I'm with you there, but here's what my opinion is.
Okay.
Time one, first offense, get a warning. Shit happens, like it's okay. The second one needs to be a draft penalty, and not like a weak one, because I'm also big into the fact of draft penalties, especially 30 seconds. Who gives a fuck? Like, you miss 30 seconds. Oh no! Like, it doesn't affect anything. Like, no one cares. So it needs to be a heavy draft penalty. This third one needs to be a game forfeit, and then the fourth one needs to be a series forfeit. And it sounds really, I say, like, harsh, but if you think about it, how many games are you actually in charge of in the lobby through, like, just groups? You're maybe in charge of 3 or 4 series, and which means you're in charge of 6 to 8 games. And if 4 of those, like 4 times out of that, you don't ticket, you're clearly not, like, you're doing something wrong. And, like, it's not an oopsie anymore. Like, you're just not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a captain. And in this league, I don't feel like we hold our captains as accountable as they need to. So when you say, first off, like, draft penalties, whatever, you get your first 2, slap on the wrist. But then when you start forfeiting games and you forfeit series, then all of a sudden, if you're not paying attention, then that forfeited game, that's getting your attention. The whole series, that's getting, like, your attention. Like, if you don't want things to happen, you got to have harsh punishments. What do you think, Walsh?
I feel like you just give people a fucking book at the beginning of, like, it's just a single page. It says like 3 things. Like, as captain, your responsibilities are these 3 things. You fuck it up, like, there's gonna be some fucking consequences.
That's called the rule book.
Fair, but people need to. But people don't read the full thing. So give captains the literal fucking top notes of, like, hey, here's like the literal shit you just need to do. Everything else is like mostly for us debate, for like the admins to back up and have debate about, like, hey, this is the way our rules operate. But here's like the literal shit you need to do on a daily, on a match basis that needs to be handled.
Mm-hmm.
That, or my controversial opinion is, make it both captains' problems, and if both of them don't do it, they both get punished. Like, something.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, be
like, exactly like that. Like, no, you have 2 captains.
Cause a lot of controversy,
bro. Getting people L's over losing tickets is also going to cause controversy. Like, both are.
All right, so think about it this way.
Yeah.
The first time you're asking in a ticket, or I assume the admins are making a ticket trying to figure out what the fuck happened.
Yep.
You're telling them, hey, look, this game wasn't ticketed. What occurred? Why did this happen? Try this in the future. Okay. You do it a second time. Now you're like, I already gave you a warning. Like, I already sent you this. Really make sure. Like, you're really emphasizing. Like, for example, when I screwed up and didn't ticket, before the admins can even contact me, I'm already in a ticket with the other captain. And I said, I fucked this up. I already had sent every single screenshot of draft, results, our builds, our, like, the entire, like, bans and all that stuff. I sent it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what is my penalty? Do I have a draft penalty? Do I forfeit? What is supposed to be happening? Okay. I already knew. But by the time that you do this 3 times, like, and you're starting getting L's, it's almost a malice offense because there's no way that if you've been told twice, first off, you didn't understand the rules the first time, you got a warning, you got a slap on the wrist. The second time you get a slap on the wrist, really trying to figure out what the problem is. You're having conversations with the admins. You already got a penalty. Like, you lose the game, wake the fuck up. Like, you have to have these. Like, it's pretty well known, hey, you need to fucking ticket your games. And then the fourth time, if you do it a fourth time after losing a game, like, something's going on. Like, lose the entire fucking, series. And if you get 0-2'd in the series anyways, like, fucking deduct games until they have fucking 0. Like, it sounds harsh, but if you want your rules to be upheld, you have to have harsh consequences.
Has anybody forgotten a ticket 3 times in a row, though? Like, in a single season?
Yeah.
Really?
There was... I remember talking to Gambit about it before one of our Challenger League content. And he was like, yeah, I think there was like 2 times last season where there was like 4 or 5 missed tickets from one team.
Oh, okay, that I completely agree
but
with. It's like, that's okay, 6 L's.
Right. And when you look at like the whole group of how many teams there are, it's such an outlier. And missing 1 ticket is going to happen to anybody. It really is. Missing 2, like, it's not uncommon. Missing 3 starts to be, and it's a problem.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the way to get rid of problems is to punish harshly. And this is also somebody who just fucked up saying this. Like, I understood that I broke the rules, that I didn't do a good job as a captain, and I wasn't efficient enough in order to set up the lobby in that time. I recognized my mistake, and I instantly, like, between games, asked, do I have a drop penalty for this game? And the answer was no, you get a warning. You got to hold captains more accountable. That's just where I'm at. And then if you want to start this fantasy thing, you need the games to be ticketed, because then it just fucks everything if it's not.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, exactly like you said, right? If we're going to have this fantasy thing be serious, and that means you have to have ticketing be serious. I mean, not, fantasy serious, like 2 kind of oxymoronic words. But I agree with you that if you're going to try and make this a thing, and if people get into the fantasy and enjoy this, then, like, let's not leave this up to ticketing then, because Lord knows.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Like, my opinion, like I said before, is I don't think it's that deep, but if you wanted to do it, I like Ben's idea of having both captains accountable. So if you both mess up, then you both get draft penalties for your next games, right? And it's just like increasing, to me, it'd just be increasing penalties, right? You get 1 warning, then it's a draft penalty, and then it keeps increasing up, right, until playoffs, some shit like that.
The only problem that I would say with that strategy is that if I'm a captain, literally all I'm going to do on the opposite is go, hey, remember to ticket this game. And, like, that's as far as my responsibility should go, is like, hey, just remember to ticket it. I'm actively messaging you about this. Like, saying,
but you can see at the bottom. You can see the bottom if it's ticketed or not. And if it's not ticketed to that season, you don't have to hit you don't have to pick your
or
side,
your choice.
Yeah. Yep.
Which to me, again, it's just a double check.
Thinking about it a little deeper, I don't hate it as much as I did initially, because it does help both teams become accountable, and it does give that reminder of, hey, make sure this shit's ticketed. And there's also going to be instances where, like, the client fucks up, but, like, that's the client's fault. Like, that doesn't go into punishment. You know what I mean? But it does when both teams are
checking that box, right?
Yeah, and both teams are going to be penalized. Then both captains should be thinking about this, and you're going to get a warning for the first time, anyways.
Both of them will,
but it makes sure that you're reminding and you're working together to make sure that shit is set up the way that it needs to be set up.
Yeah. And I think it breaks people of the thinking of, like, I don't care if this team's ticketed. It wasn't my responsibility. It's like, no, it's both of yours. Like, you have 2 people now checking for it, and on top of that as well, like, technically you'll now have all members of each team looking to make sure, right? It's not just the captain
Right.
of the one. Like you're doubling the amount of people that should be looking at this number. In
Yeah,
one way of thinking, you're right.
you want to make sure that you don't get punished, and if you're not getting punished, and even then, if it's still not ticketed after you say it like a couple times or something crazy happens, like you don't have to click your choice until it's set.
Yeah.
And then the other instance is like, if you can show and prove that, hey, I said this shit, like even just take a quick screenshot that, hey, you did your part in making sure he's still fucked up. It's not my responsibility anymore. Then you can let somebody off the hook. You know what I mean?
And even then, you still have like a ticket of which like 5 members of the enemy team and possibly like 2 or 3 of the friendly team saying like, no, the enemy team did say like, hey, ticket the game, and for some reason we ignored it, or like this was like not acknowledged and we failed to acknowledge it. Like that's on us.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world.
In the same sense, if I'm about to get punished and they're not, I'm gonna be like, oh, they never fucking said it, and they're gonna be like, oh, yes, I did. You know what I mean? Like it's just gonna go back and forth.
That's that can spark a debate, but it's
Yeah, I don't hate it. I really don't.
I like fantasy. Stop fucking up my fantasy, guys. That's all I got to say to the audience. Just pay attention.
I'm just saying, our fantasy points for Pot of Greed this season would be through the fucking roof.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, I would love for fucking fantasy to come on.
Legend best division. I'll stand by that. I've played in every goddamn division, like from that and up. And I'll tell you right now, the most fun for content and everything was always in Legend. That's why, like, I think like half the content, if not more, is made in is Legend based, because that's just where the fun is, man.
I'm just saying, I got
where all the
in
characters
the red
are
zone right now for my fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm about to start counting our fantasy points. Just track them for our team. I think we did that last year for a little bit, didn't we, Ben?
Yeah, we did. We were tracking on who was doing the best out of the team in fantasy.
We were like, who's the best? And then every single week we're like, or no, this was 2 seasons ago when Nick was actually on the team.
Yep, we were tracking.
I am the Rock.
Because we were like, we were like,
who did the best cookies?
It was cookies. Okay, who's number 2?
Yeah,
man, that dude balled out. But,
my undying game will go down in infamy. Yank can't guard me.
You think I care as I die? I don't care as I die.
Bro, that's extra tombstone value.
With that, let's go ahead and wrap it up. That's going to conclude episode 21. Thank you guys again for tuning in, watching, and being a part of a dose of Sinsanity. Have a good day.
Good luck this week, everyone.